I'm telling you the same thing. So we went out and we put our heads together and we decided to really launch off a new spirit. So I give Harry Gray just enormous credit for giving us that tipping point. So now we had to solve the problem. And we did a lot of different things. Bob Zincone, myself, but at this time I was engineering manager, vice president of engineering. Bob Zincone was chief engineer. We were really a team working pretty much. Lou Cotton and guys like that were working on our stability and control systems. There was a line outside of our office every day over everything from the pitot tube to the tail rotor and everything in between, the problems we had to solve. But we had this hunch that the problems we had in performance, maneuverability and all of that, was caused by the fact that the main rotor was sitting too low and too near the fuselage. It was designed that way because of air transportability. The Black Hawk had to fit inside an airplane to be transportable. And the only way you can do that is to fold the rotor blades down and have it fit in this very tight compartment. That's the reason why the rotor was so low. But a rotor being low can create these interferences between the rotor systems and the top of the fuselage. So we asked Ev Friedenberg, who was a guy in research, you know Ev. And he had a consultant called Hank Velkoff, who was a former Air Force researcher. We asked him to go back and really analyze this, use your computer, go through this and so on. He came back, and Bob Zincone and I, they said, you're absolutely right. We're going to have to raise the rotor. In addition to that, we're going to have to increase the chord of the rotor blade about 85% out. And we're going to have to camber that part of the airfoil because it's stalling because of the interference. And if you could do those three things, we think we can solve the vibration problem, maneuverability problem, and so on. These are Ev Friedenberg, and Hank Velkoff really made a major contribution in doing that. Now the problem was, how do you sell that to a group of people who know that air transportability is not only one of the most important things? You can't transport it, you can't, you haven't got a program, but it's so visible. I mean, Bill Paul and Bob Zincone are saying, and Ev Friedenberg are saying, this will solve our vibration problem, but we don't know that for sure. Yeah. But we know for sure that you can't fix the, you're not going to be air transportable. So we asked Bob Torok, who's now the program manager, and Al Poole, who's the vice president of marketing, to come into my office. And Bob Zincone and I briefed him, and we told them what we wanted to do, and they fell off the chair. After they regained themselves, we had the next meeting in Jerry Tobias's office. It was a very somber meeting, very sober meeting. We briefed them. Jerry said, how are you going to solve the air transportability problem? We said, well, we got a fellow by the name of Ferris who is designing up a tube. And you put the tube, what you do is you basically mount the rotor head on a tube. You take the rotor head off, you can take the tube out, and you slide the rotor head over the top of the old shaft. And it's air transportable, but you have to keep the tube in the aircraft. It certainly is an issue, but we can solve that problem. He said, how sure are you that this is going to work? How sure? And I said, we're very sure. How sure are you that this is the cause of the problem? Because we're very sure. It's okay. Not only let's do it, but let's do it for every aircraft. Let's build this facility. We're not going to look back. It's either going to work or we're going down the loops. But we're not going to build something that you guys in engineering like to do. You like to build one and try it. No. You've convinced me, and therefore we're going to do it. Now, we did it. Boeing must have known that this was their problem as well. They must have gone into their management, but they didn't do it. We did it. They didn't. We won. They lost. Yeah. That simple. Yeah. We won the competition a little while later, about a month later. The Undersecretary of the Army came to visit us and were going to debrief us. And said, guys, you beat Boeing so badly during the fly before you buy competition that it was like the Oakland Raiders beating the Vikings that year in the Super Bowl. I think it was 42-13. It was that kind of victory. They had not raised their rotor. You had, and it made the difference. So I give Tobias amount of credit. for helping us do it. So when you look back, then you've got Carlos Wood, you've got Jack McKenna, you've got Wes Kurt, you've got Harry Jensen, you've got Harry Gray, and you've got, in the end, Jerry Tobias. Those are the 6 guys that I give the credit for basically transforming the company and allowing the engineering team to basically be ready and to do their thing. Yeah. A couple extra comments maybe at the end, kind of as an epilogue, Art. It wasn't over then. The problem was that the company was not ready to manufacture those helicopters. I mean, we hadn't manufactured a production helicopter in years. And particularly, I mean, we had a contract to deliver 240 Black Hawk. Let's see, it was 120 Black Hawks. It was 24 Black Hawks a month. It was one day. We had 24 Seahawks a year, and we had a contract for 12 CH-53Es. And we had to shove this into a factory, into a purchasing department, into an industrial engineering organization that hadn't done this in a long time. So we choked. We had hired 12,000 people. We had gone from 4,000 to 12,000 people, and we couldn't produce. By this time, Bob Daniel had become president of the company, and head of manufacturing was Gene Buckley, who Jerry Tobias had hired, another positive thing he had done, and I was executive vice president. Between the 3 of us, we wrestled with this manufacturing problem. And I remember, for example, going into the factory myself in the operations every day. I had 8 meetings in each of the 8 operating centers every single day. And we were with Gene Buckley in the course of doing that. And Bob, to his brilliance, he was a great customer person and had a great deal of credibility with the customer, was holding the customer's hands because they were ready to really, pull the cork. Yeah. Here we are overrunning our contracts. We're behind. Nothing is happening. And Bob almost singularly held on to that. And by this time, since we had won the Seahawk competition, and by the way, the Seahawk competition was rather interesting. The Navy Admiral called us the day he gave us the award. And I was in Jerry Tobias' office and said, I don't want to give you this contract, but I have to. Really? Strange. He said, think about it. All our eggs in the government are in one basket, Sikorsky. Oh, yeah. I wanted to give this to Boeing, but I couldn't because they hadn't raised their rotor and hadn't demonstrated that. They had raised it in the proposal, but it was too late. Mm-hmm. So we had won the Seahawk as well. So after, in a few years, Bob then had moved up to the corporation and ultimately became chairman and CEO of United Technologies. Quite a tribute to him and quite a tribute to Sikorsky to have spawned, right, Carl Cullen? To have spawned a homegrown guy, right, to that position. I took his place. I was focusing more at that time on building systems integration capability because we could see that an LHX competition was coming up, and there instead of having a Lockheed be in charge of the systems, we could do the system integration stuff ourselves. That's what I was focusing on, as well as the international stuff. I then moved up to take the place of Bob Daniel in running the United Technologies Defense and Space Group. Mm-hmm. And Bob Zincone moved up into my position. You can see that the Black Hawk was doing pretty well for our careers at this time. Absolutely. Bob then moved on to become president of LHX. The LHX was a team of Boeing and ourselves competing with McDonnell and Bell. And we won that competition. We won it, by the way, in Gene Buckley's watch when he became president, taking the place of Bob Zincone. So we proved winning the LHX that winning the UTAS was just not a fluke. Yeah, we really had transformed it. So here we're sitting here today, 2009. Jeff Pino is president of the company. The business is a $4 billion business. We have helicopters everywhere. But I think in that period of time, our contributions, we gave the company a product and a product line. And today, we're still producing them in large numbers. We've given 2 or 3 generations of families in a community, business and growth. And probably more importantly, we gave the customer a hell of a good product line.
Yeah, it's still going